Welcome to the Texas Conflict Coach radio program. If you have ever experienced or engaged in destructive or unresolved conflict, then you know it leads to broken relationships, distrust, and damaging results. Our program will help you manage and resolve conflict effectively with strategies, valuable resources, and support. I am your host, Patty Porter. My guest hosts, Dina Zameta and Stephen Kotev, along with our guest experts, will share our experiences, raise your awareness, and give you food for thought. We will share with you problem-solving strategies no matter what your situation is. At work, with neighbors or friends, family, and business partners. Tune in or join in the conversation every Tuesday evening. Well, welcome back, listeners. Can you believe it's fall already? October is Conflict Resolution Month, honored by various events and educational seminars throughout the U.S. And we continue our tradition of focusing on workplace conflict for our October series. Last year, we introduced a nonprofit organization providing online conflict resolution services and education. In this episode, Learning Bravery through Brāv, you will get an update on this cutting-edge online platform to manage conflicts at your school, work, or home. Now, Brāv ultimately becomes the first option in workplaces, schools, in lieu of HRs, deans, and principals, standard policy. So in this way, there's less work for everyone. In addition, teaming up with groups including schools, workplaces, police departments, and task forces allows for accountability where all parties are ensured to come together. Now, returning with me tonight is Remi Alli, who is the CEO of Brāv, and she returns to speak with us as well as Sujay Shetty. Now, Remi holds a JD, a master's degree in health law, and a background in psychology. She also is a national legal scholar, having just won her first place in a recent AJA legal competition. Congratulations, Remi, on that.
Thank you.
And then yes, absolutely. And Sujay Shetty, S-H-E-T-T-Y, is a project manager for Brāv. And Sujay is the president of Resident Halls Association, representing approximately 10,000 residents who live on campus. He can talk to you at length about the Michigan Wolverines, public policy, social justice, traveling, Harry Potter, Star Wars, and my favorite, anything having to do with chocolate. So he is pursuing a career in technology, product management, and related fields, and is excited to be part of the innovation team at Brāv. And Sujay and Remi, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Oh, absolutely. Now, folks, you have been with us for a long time now. We do have our chat room open at blogtalkradio.com/Texas-conflict-coach. So if you decide you're listening in, you want to join us in the chat room, you can do that. And we also have our interns tweeting tonight live, and we're using the hashtag ConflictChat. So join us there. You can leave your comments and questions, and we'll bring them into to the program. So, Remi and Sujay, how long have you been with Brāv now?
Sure. So I actually am a fairly recent member for Brāv. I just joined this summer, at the end of the summer, and so I've only been here for a little bit over a month, but it's definitely been a very exciting month, definitely so far. We've been doing a lot of exciting things, and I'm really looking forward to what we'll do next on the innovation team.
Well, that's wonderful, and how exciting. You're already on the radio program within the month of you working with Brāv, so that must be exciting too.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, let's refresh our listeners' minds about what Brāv is. Now, Brāv is B-R-A-V, and like I said, it's been a year. You did a two-part program for us last year, and you've been very involved. I know there's been a lot of development. So can you just remind our listeners what Brāv is, what your organization hopes to achieve?
Definitely. So first I want to say thank you again for having us. We really enjoy talking to you whenever we can, Patty. Brāv is essentially the idea of empowering yourself. And so what we're seeing is just dramatic issues and conflicts, particularly in workplaces all over. So Brave is essentially a way to empower yourself. It's a play on words. It's Brave without the E. We use the overline in order to suggest the pronunciation as being the same as the typical spelling of Brave. And we essentially get people together to train in conflict management strategy, and they in turn manage the conflicts of others, including employees, directly on our website.
So they're really, not only are they powering themselves individually, but hopefully they're building some capacity within the workplace organization from what they take back from the experience with Brave, from the training end of it.
Perfect. It's really holistic in that regard.
Okay, great. So so on a high level, now, but your organization, but it's not just about training, is it? There's other components in what you're trying to do as well. Can you also clarify that?
Yeah. So we use all types of communications that are available to us today in technology. CJ will go into that a little bit more, but so far we've employed emojis, which are the little smileys that are able to allow employees to identify their emotions that they're having and essentially just kind of help them out to gain a feel as to how they're feeling, if they're in a hostile environment or not. And those emojis can be sent to us, and we can then begin a conversation as to the best way to kind of handle it, maybe through their own training to increase their skill set or even managing their conflict on our chat platform. We also have automated chatbots. Chatbots being the new form of apps, and everybody's seeming to like them. So it's kind of like an Apple Siri for conflict management.
Okay, great. Well, and you're kind of going in that direction. So maybe Sujay, and I know that you're new to Brave in particular, but probably not to product development. So what are some of the new developments since last year, trendy kind of stuff like the emoji that you'd like to add about Brave? Because it is a whole technology online platform.
Right. So technology is central to Brave's mission. So we really, within our tech solutions, we really try to facilitate healthy dialogue between the different parties, facilitated by a Brave one, that's named for our facilitators, and we empower our facilitators to do the best they can through the technology. So it's something that we focus really heavily on within our product teams here at Brave, product and innovation teams, is conscientious design of the product. So that means that a good product not only takes healthy software engineering behind it, like a very nice design, good flow, all things like that, but it also takes knowing the context of where that product is going to be used for the respective client or customer, and designing that product to suit those needs. And that is integrated into the product development process to make sure that our technology is the best solution out there for our clients, whether they're businesses, schools, sports teams, etc. So just like an example of like one of the interesting features that our technology now features is so within our live chat that you can participate in, the live video chat, we also have the text chat, which is adjacent to the screen at the same time, so it's easy to use. We try to keep multiple features on the screen that without overwhelming the user, so you don't have too many buttons out there, so you don't go in the wrong direction. It also can be multifaceted, so it's not only just one person on one person. You can have both parties talking to the facilitator at the same time. On top of that, we also have incorporated something called like an e-digital mask. So a lot of times, one of the big barriers to dialogue is that sometimes people are just, they don't want to show their face, right? So what we've done is the e-digital mask, it emulates facial expressions for those who don't want to show their faces. So that's just one of the many things that our technology does. In addition to just being very fluid, easy to use, and reliable. So that's really what we've been working on here on the product team.
Sujay, could you clarify again? Did you say it was a visual mask?
Yes. So it's a mask that the other individuals within that conversation would see. It's supposed to instead of just being like another like standard anonymous graphic that you see on like social media sites for people who don't upload profile pictures, it instead allows the user to display certain facial expressions based on how that conversation could be going.
Okay, perfect. I'm glad you clarified that. So the first thing I wanted to tap into from what you just said is, I use online technology a great deal myself in my conflict management practice. And in particular with clients, especially if I'm doing, let's say, conflict coaching one-on-one with them, sometimes even with facilitated dialogues. And this comes up a lot because people were like, well, if they were in your city and they were sitting in your office, they would be seeing you. So what's the big, people are surprised when they're saying, well, people don't want to show their faces. And actually, that's more of a common issue that people maybe and there's different reasons, from my experience about people not wanting to show their faces but still wanting to be involved in the process is that, maybe they feel that they're going to be judged, or maybe they don't want people to see their facial expressions, but they want to, express the emotion. And what a wonderful option that you've given people to have this visual mask that allows them to participate and engage, feel empowered, and use whatever buttons to mimic, like you said, this user technology that allows them to still express their mood. So that's really exciting that you're doing that. So that is not uncommon, and what a wonderful thing that y'all thought about that element of people getting involved.
I'm so glad that you understand its importance, and you also see from your own background in that. We found that people have contacted us saying that's been a huge barrier, as Sujay had stated, and so we hope that can kind of help minimize people's deterrence from employing online conflict management as a resource for them in the workplace or elsewhere.
Okay, so before we go into an example of some of the hot topics, because you talked about some dramatic issues, and we certainly have had in the U.S. some dramatic hot topics with the elections around the corner. We'll get to that in just a second, but I want to make sure our listeners, because this is an audio program right now, but I want to make sure that they understand visually what it is you're talking about. So, listener, because I was in your Brave, Remi, you and I got a chance to sit down and kind of look a little bit at the screen of what I was visually looking at. So imagine you, listener, you're a party in a dispute, and you want to have a facilitated dialogue. Maybe you're in the workplace organization, and you and your coworker haven't been getting along, and you log into your computer. Now, I'm sure I'm not saying all this correctly, but visually what's happening is you're looking on the screen. You have your webcam on, unless you've got your visual mask displayed, but you have your webcam on. Your coworker, maybe your coworker's in another city, and you're a part of a virtual team. They have their computer on, and in the room you will see in the center, if I recall right, you would see each other, and you would see the brave one, the facilitator, as you just mentioned, Sujay. So you call the brave one, which is the facilitator trained in facilitating conversation. And in that room, you're not just looking like a straight video like you would like in a Skype, but you're going to have these like you said, the live, I believe you said the live video chat, the text chat, the emojis that might be able to use, and abilities to also write responses. But so you're visually seeing each other as if you were in the same room together, and then you have tools that you can use, and the facilitator has tools that they can use to facilitating those conversations. Anything else you would want to add from a listener's perspective if they were sitting in front of their computer, help them understand?
Yeah, that's great. So in addition, we also have the option to separate individuals if they want to speak directly to the brave one without any of the other parties being involved. That's the caucusing button, which you see in a regular or typical mediation. And we also have the panic button, which terminates the session in its entirety. And that sometimes becomes, a necessity because people may not want to see something disturbing that occurs or anything of that sort. So those are some of the other functionalities.
Did you call it the panic button?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you did call it the panic button. Okay, all right.
I'm sorry,
so
yes.
you're not going to be like, hit the panic button and then your seat's going to go on fire and you're going to shoot into the air like out of an airplane or anything like that. You're just going to end the session, and then, of course, there'll probably be a process for the brave one, getting back with you and everything. Anything, Sujay, you wanted to add in terms of that visual experience?
Yeah, sure. So, having all those options available, right at the user's fingertips within a easy to navigate screen, allows it to be a fluid experience. So let's say you were trying to facilitate conflict management through a mediator, but maybe through something like just Skype. You'd have a harder time not only recording the conversation because you have to go through all these loopholes to record something on Skype, but you also have things like the panic button wouldn't be available to you. A lot of the one of the features that I personally think is very useful is being able to speak directly with the mediator while temporarily keeping the other parties out of that specific conversation. Having that be a fluid process and not be a huge interruption to that conflict management conversation is very very important towards being efficient and being successful in reaching some sort of understanding. So all these things make Brave's interface a superior interface compared to many other options out there.
Well, we also want to mention. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. We also want to mention the fact that you can upload different evidence, be it documents of that show support your stance or videos or anything along that line during your session. Okay,
very good. So lots of great technology and tools, and I can imagine for a lot of people this would provide a safe environment in which to participate without feeling like they've got to be in the same room with the people. Because, we've talked many times on the show how many, many people are conflict avoiders. And maybe this gives another way for those who are very conflict avoidant to feel safe, to participate in dialogues in a way that feels a little safer for them, and yet still very real and very empowering. So it's amazing the kind of technology and the extra tools that you brought into this platform to provide that level of safety and also a way to empower. So I'm really excited for you as this continues to grow for you and you get more and more people involved. So let's take an example because we are focused on workplace conflict, and because the idea is how do we have dialogues, right? How do we facilitate dialogues, especially on really, really hot topics? And they can be very controversial, right, as they make their way into the workplace conversation. And a lot of times and probably even now, right, with all the elections that are going on, there have been some very heated debates. A lot of them have been unhealthy conversations. Probably some of them have, gone into shouting and yelling matches and slamming doors. I mean, because people feel very, very passionate about what is going on in the presidential elections here in the U.S. And so that is definitely an example of many that's happened in this country and other countries where we need to really have dialogue, not debate per se. And a lot of us find ourselves not just avoiding those conversations altogether. I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get people's feelings hurt. I don't want to say something I regret. And before you know it, we get into a fight. But before we do that, could you define what you would say is the difference between a debate and a dialogue? Because I think that often gets confused by people.
Great. Okay. Okay, sure, I will. Go. Do you want to respond, CJ?
No, please. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, great question. So the difference is essentially on the intent behind it. The difference between a debate and a discussion. A debate usually has the idea that one person wins. It's a zero-sum game. Rarely is there a compromise met. Sometimes, however, there's usually the goal to win. over the other, prevail over the other, versus a discussion is the idea that there's rights or truths on both or all, any sides, and that there's a way in which everybody can progress from the different perceptions they may have on an issue. So that's something that we want to encourage, since it's a little bit healthier and it's a little bit more realistic, that there are truths in any and all sides to an issue.
Okay, yes. So with a debate, what we see on television, right, we have the vice presidential debates coming up, and I think we have another second round of presidential debates on Sunday with Clinton and Trump. And so based on what you just said with the debate, what we're seeing, listeners, obviously, is they're doing a debate with the purpose, the intent of winning, right? Winning why they should be elected president, winning why they believe in the actions they're going to take. So the idea, and then you often hear the commentators and the journalists and all that saying, so who do we think won the debate, right? And so it is with that purpose. Now, when we're in the workplace, and so it's not to say that debates are always destructive and unhealthy. They are there's a purpose to that, right? They can be productive, and that's why they put such structure, right, on these presidential debates. There's very specific time frames, there's ground rules, there's all kinds of things. And so is there an example, if anything, and maybe what's trending right now in terms of an unhealthy debate? We probably see all the Trump and all the debates in the past on YouTube. Is there anything in particular that's standing out in your mind now in terms of what a destructive and unhealthy debate is?
Yeah, so we're nonpartisan at Brave. However, we can't help to notice certain things that all candidates kind of use as a tactic. So mudslinging is often something that we kind of, shy away from here. And mudslinging being the idea of, ad hominem attacks, which is kind of a logical fallacy whereby instead of directly addressing an issue at hand that's relevant to the actual debate, they decide to attack the actual person that they are in debate with. And it's usually not relevant to the actual debate. It's more so just to intimidate the other, or to get those who are listening, the audience and viewers, to kind of get distracted from the issue at hand and focus on something that's not relevant. So we see a lot of mudslinging, and that's just unnecessary. If our goal is to foster a way to learn more about the actual current issues and how they can be better managed.
Okay, great. Anything, Sujay, that you wanted to add about an unhealthy, destructive debate? Anything else coming to mind that you've experienced or seen?
Yeah, sure. So, as you mentioned before, I'm involved in the Residence Hall Association at my university, so I'm a student government official. So, just recently, and many other universities have experienced this across the United States, there were some racially inflammatory flyers posted throughout campus. Now, we are a public university, and our university, supports free speech. So we got in a really sticky situation on what we can do. And there were, all kinds of campus-wide protests going on. It got pretty heated. Our university president is hosting all sorts of discussions, dialogues. Once again, dialogues, not debates. And what you saw on campus was, a lot of hurt feelings, and it did become toxic at some points. You had so this is once again this is a reason why you should go towards dialogue rather than debate when you're trying to reach understanding with people and trying to resolve conflict rather than provoke conflict. We had a student group on campus which decided to just at the same time. Just happened at the same time that they would host a debate, not a dialogue, a debate on the merits behind the Black Lives Matter movement, and that added fuel to the fire, to say. And so that's, once again, another example, and on how not to, try to arrive at an understanding, per se, especially when viewpoints can be limited and misconstrued at the same time. So that's just that's a really recent experience actually, and I just thought I'd bring that up too.
Well, I'm glad because, I think a lot of listeners who are television viewers, radio listeners, I think more often than not they probably see unhealthy and experience destructive debate more than they've seen the productive, structured debates that's focused on, the issues and shedding light on the pros and cons, the advantages or disadvantages of a particular issue or opinion that they're, debating about. And so unfortunately I think, so many people go to, Vimeo and YouTube and all that and see what's really not a healthy debate at all, and then they think that that's what debate is, unfortunately. So we know that, as you said, Remi, the mudslinging, the attacking the person, the intimidation, we've seen a lot of that in this presidential election that's been coming off. And so we're going to talk just a little bit about the impact, but I did want to get into how do we use, healthy debates and or healthy dialogue, because that's what y'all are about, is the dialogue for having these tough issues. But what are some impacts when we are having these unhealthy fights in the workplace, in our communities? What's that impact?
Yeah, so in our research, and which is well over 10 years now, we just have been really interested in focusing on conflicts for that long and just in the R&D aspect of this. But we've found some really startling statistics, including over $359 billion, not millions, billions of dollars in paid hours are spent dealing with workplace conflicts alone, and that's only in the U.S. Imagine how much it would be globally. Yeah, $359 billion, just to stress that. What we're also seeing is other billion-dollar figures. There's about $1 billion is estimated as to the amount of sick hours that go when people decide to take a leave of absence because they're trying to avoid someone from work. And the fact that there's also high turnover due to conflicts, leading to even more money being just drained. And it's just a constant cycle that we're seeing in many, many industries in the U.S. alone. And I'm also having people call internationally and telling me personal and professional stories about the conflicts that they are enduring and how it's affecting them, not just financially, like the stats suggest, but even emotionally and physically. What we're seeing also are there's links to heart attacks and strokes with conflicts because we are internalizing our conflicts, leading to depression and suicides, or externalizing it, causing the bullying that we might see at workplace conflicts and hostile environments, and even homicides. So there's just a phenomenon of issues that surround this huge source of ills that we generally try to shy away from. And what we're trying to do is get people to understand and acknowledge that this is really having a detrimental effect on my livelihood and those around me. And so we need to do something about that.
It's really sad, as you're saying, because I think, this shouldn't be new, although billions of dollars are spent on workplace conflict. And yet we should be probably spending, huge amounts of money in workplace organizations to really learn how to handle conflict in more constructive and productive ways, as you said, to empower the individual, to empower the organization to really have these tough conversations in productive ways. And I think that when we see this increase of violence on television, I mean, just last week recently was another killing from an employee who was upset, and he went in and killed 2 or 3 people. I think it was in the South somewhere, Tennessee or something like that. And we constantly hear these stories, and then people get even more afraid, right? They get even more afraid to have difficult conversations because they're like, oh, is someone going to get? So instead of embracing, we need to have more of them. I think what it does is it shuts people down, and they get motivated by fear, but they go in the opposite direction in terms of a destructive or avoidance tactic. So with your Brāv online platform, can you give an example of a workplace conflict that you were able to use this platform to help have one of these difficult dialogues?
Yeah, so again, we are nonpartisan, but something that recently came up in discussion is the fact that Ivanka Trump has been stating that she really likes the idea of youth, empowering youth and women in business. And so recently an article came up suggesting that she does not pay her interns and how that might be detrimental for them. And so one of her interns in particular penned one of the articles in question. And so that's something that could be managed on the conflict alone, or on our platform alone, you know, just something as simple as that. Perhaps not necessarily a financial gain for the intern, but perhaps hashing out some sort of compromise that everybody feels that they can ultimately benefit from.
Okay, and again, we already talked about a number of the technology tools in which to have that conversation. And I imagine this would work really well, not just within an organization where the coworkers are in the same location, but now we see more and more trends that people are teleworking, virtual teams from different states, even international work teams. So I can imagine this platform is beautiful in having those kind of difficult conversations and dialogues on difficult topics because we're becoming more of a virtual world. I don't know what your thoughts are about that, but it seems like that would be a good fit.
And that's a great point and a great segue to the statistic that we found that millennials are looking for more ways to communicate with others, particularly online, as technology becomes more available, but also making us become a little bit more distant with one another.
Sujay, anything else you wanted to add about how this can benefit workplaces in terms of virtual teams? Anything that you have an experience about or anything you want to add?
Sure, yeah. I mean, just to support what has been said already, it's easy to become, in our increasingly, virtual world, to become disconnected when you're not working with, people necessarily face to face, and so it's harder to express emotions. It's harder to really a lot of the ways we communicate is through body language. And through reading people's faces, things along those lines. When you have such an environment, actually likely creates friction to potentially to cultivate conflict, and that's so. I think the value proposition that Brave offers is especially useful in those kind of situations where you can provide a solution where we can take some of those negative variables away and facilitate healthy dialogue.
Okay, great. Thank you. So there's a couple things that come to mind as some strategies, listeners, especially right now when we're, as the elections are coming closer. We have another 5-6 weeks left. I think tensions are going to get even hotter as the debates go on and the conversations happen. And I think from what you were saying earlier, Remi and Sujay, I think there's three things that are coming to mind. One, if you're having these kind of conversations in the workplace, or maybe you're having it in your neighborhood, or you're having it in your church community, or wherever you're having these conversations on a really hot topic, and we've been talking about the presidential elections, but that's just one of many. In Texas, we got the whole open carry gun law, and that's been a really hot debate. So there's lots of hot debates going on, but the thing is if you're going to have a dialogue or even have a debate, a healthy one, don't attack the person, attack the issue, right? And Remi was saying, that is a very destructive thing to attack the person. That's what we see a lot. But attack the issue. What is the issue at hand? Speak to be heard, because a lot of times we speak to intimidate and to make people afraid. And so how can you think about how you can say what you need to say to be heard? Sometimes we yell, we shout, and we say things, and ironically, we want so much and so badly for someone to hear our perspective, but the way in which we're delivering the message causes the other person to shut down, to run away, or maybe even to counterattack. So the very thing you want the most is not happening because of how you're delivering it. So speak to be heard. And is there one other tip that either of you would like to give just based on our conversation today?
Yeah, well, this also reminds me of the fact that presidential candidate Hillary Clinton was recorded in stating that one of the larger communities of color were considered, particularly the males in that community, were considered super predators. And that was something that has been going on and being circulated now, particularly in that community of color that she had mentioned. And many people keep asking her to discuss what she meant. As she stated that, I understand, maybe a decade ago or even longer than that. And she's been kind of either shying away or just I don't know, just not giving a comprehensive answer to the satisfaction of that community as they continue to ask her. One time in particular, she was giving a speech at an event, and one member actually confronted her right then and there, interrupting her speech. And people attacked that member, stating, "You're being rude." And so not only was the person who was hoping to get a valid answer out of her called out of place and kind of threatened and intimidated down, but also presidential candidate Clinton felt attacked. So that was kind of a lose-lose situation at that time. Utilizing a platform where both parties, or all parties rather, who are in a conflict or engagement feel that they will be safe and secure without being attacked is crucial to getting any sort of valid dialogue and potential compromise from occurring. So that's something that we'd like to encourage our listeners here and users at large to kind of get acclimated with and start utilizing Brave in that regard.
Well, very good. Okay, so that's a nice segue to Sujay as we close out the program because I think you have an opportunity for our listeners. Sujay, go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. We at Brave would love to hear from the listeners, from everyone listening to us on what their thoughts are on conflict management. And engage with us. We'd really love it to have the listeners come join us in the conversation on our website. If you go to discussions.brave.org, or if you just go to brave.org and hit the discussions tab, you'll get there. We do have a special offer for our listeners, for your listeners tonight. And remember, it's brave.org. It's BRAV. Because that's how we spell it. So it's brav.org, and join the discussion. And then
when they go to the discussion, I understand there is they're answering a question, and then what do they get by filling out this question survey?
They're able to receive a free session directly on the website. So while we're rolling out the different features, we encourage you to go on our website on the discussions page, click on Share Your Story, and discuss different conflicts that you may have witnessed, either personal or professional. Upload news clips directly from YouTube, or even if you've enacted a conflict or you've witnessed a conflict that you would like to place on video and upload, that's great. We have polling features, all different ways in which we can talk about our conflicts and the best ways to handle them. Also, we have pre-packages that are available while we are rolling out these features. You can please contact us at info@brav.org for more information.
Okay, so by participating and sharing their story, they'll get a free session essentially so that they can learn how to use the platform and get the experience on the platform and doing that. And listeners, we'll post that on our program page as well, so you can go back and click on the link directly. All right, so brave.org, BRAV.org, to the discussion and share your story tab. And what final messages, as we close, what final message do y'all want to leave?
So we want to remind our users and our listeners that this whole idea is to empower yourself and others through direct compromise. It shouldn't be something that we shy away from or get scared to address or even be combative. We need to find ways to compromise with any and all parties so that we can be a healthier being in general.
All right. Well, thank you, Sujay, and thank you, Remi, for returning. Listeners, have a great night, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Texas Conflict Coach. We hope you enjoyed the program. You can find all of our podcasts archived to listen at your convenience at texasconflictcoach.com or download the podcast at iTunes or Stitcher Radio. You can also become a Facebook fan of Conflict Connection or Twitter me at TXConflictCoach.